Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. 2 lessons ago, we studied the 5 universals. We learned that universals are either essential if they enter into the essence of the particular instances or the species of which they are universals, or they are non-essential if they don't enter into the essence of the thing of which they are a universal, the thing to which they are predicated. Essential universals we saw were 3, namely the genus, specific difference, and species. The classic example to keep in mind to remember these 3 kinds of universals is humans are rational animals, in which case human, the universal human, is the species, animal is the genus, and rational is the specific difference. These are the 3 kinds of essential universals. Or there are non-essential, and there's 2 kinds of non-essential universals, namely the exclusive and the general universal. The classic example to keep in mind for the exclusive universal is something that laughs with respect to human beings. So this is a universal that is exclusively predicated to human beings. Only humans are things that laugh. Yet it's not essential to what a human being is. And the classic example of a general universal is something that walks or something that breathes, which is predicated. It's a universal that's predicated of human beings, but it's also predicated of other kinds of animals, and so it's not exclusive to them. This is a general universal. Together, these are the 5 universals. The 5 universals are important because we use them for conceptual inference. We use them to form definitions, which is the subject of today's lesson. A definition is a form of conceptual inference. This means that a definition is the correct way, it's the correct way to arrive at new conceptual knowledge. So we have there's 2 kinds of knowledge: conceptual knowledge and propositional knowledge. Conceptual knowledge is knowledge of what something is, what a concept is. And a conceptual knowledge does not comprise a predication. You're not saying that something is true or false. You're just explaining what it is, explaining what something is. The definition explains what something is, and then when you understand, when you grasp what something is, then we say that you have conceptual knowledge of that concept. So what is the correct method of conceptual inference? A definition. There's 2 kinds of definitions, and we'll use this verse of the Quran to illustrate them. We saw that in the last lesson, the previous lesson, we saw that even though the logicians, they use examples taken from kalam, metaphysics, which seem ancient and pre-modern, these examples are only mentioned for illustrative purposes. And the idea of essence and essential attributes is it's how we think, and it's nothing to do with these particular examples. And we can take many other kinds of examples. We can take religious examples. And so what we'll do in this lesson is we will complement the example, classic example that is given in all books of Islamic logic about humans and rational and animals and all of these other things and laughter. We'll complement them with an example that was used by Imam al-Ghazali in a book that he wrote in logic called Mi'yarul Ilm, the criterion of knowledge. And when he wrote this book of logic, he said that logic is how we think, and he said that in order to make logic more acceptable to a Muslim scholarly audience, which he deemed to be necessary because logic is the criterion of knowledge, that's why he wrote that book. He said, I will use examples that are familiar to the fuqaha, to the scholars of fiqh, because fiqh was in his time considered the highest of the Islamic sciences. So he used this example. He used the example of wine, and the reason why he used the example of wine is because there's a verse in the Quran, and wine is one of the most famous prohibitions, one of the famous things that are unlawful in the Sharia. And so it's important that we understand what wine is in order for us to be able to conform to the divine command. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, innama al-khamru wal-maysiru wal-ansabu wal-azlam, rijsum min amali shaitan. O you who believe, verily wine and the other things that are mentioned are an abomination of Satan's work. So avoid them, shun them. So in order for us to comply with this divine command, we need to know what wine is. So in order for us to know what wine is, this is another way of saying that we need to have conceptual knowledge of wine, of the concept that is signified by the Arabic expression wine that is used in the Quran. And we could define it in one of two ways. We could say that wine is an intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes. This is a good definition. Here's another definition. Wine is a transparent, frothy red liquid that is made in vats and served in taverns. Now, both of these definitions are adequate in the sense that once you understand these definitions, you gain conceptual knowledge of wine. But there's a difference between the two. Well, let's start off by defining a term, the definiendum. What is a definiendum? The definiendum is the term that is being defined. So wine is our definiendum. Wine is our definiendum, and everything else in each of these statements is our definition. The difference between these two definitions is that the first one captures the essence of wine. What is wine? Wine is an intoxicating beverage, something that is drunk, that is squeezed from grapes. So if it's squeezed from grain, then it's not called wine, it might be called beer. But when you make an intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes, that is wine. This is what wine is. This is an essential description of wine. The second definition, it does not tell you what wine is. It doesn't tell you that it is something that's drunk. It doesn't tell you that it's made from grapes. But if someone is familiar with the places that it's drunk and the way that it's made, they've gone around and they've seen, so wine would have been very prevalent in pre-Islamic Arabian society. And so people would know what it is. It's the thing that is made in vats and served in taverns. You didn't have taverns then, but this is an illustrative example. If one were to define wine in this way, that it is a frothy red liquid that is made in vats and served in taverns, you immediately grasp what is being spoken about. You gain conceptual knowledge of the definiendum, wine. But the conceptual knowledge in this second case is a conceptual knowledge that allows you to distinguish the concept of wine from other concepts. So what you gain is the ability to distinguish. You don't gain an essential knowledge of what wine is. And these are the two kinds of definitions. The first kind of definition is an essential definition, which gives you conceptual knowledge of the definiendum's essence. And the second is a non-essential definition, which gives you conceptual knowledge of the definiendum's distinguishing characteristics. Let's take them one at a time, beginning with essential definitions. Athiruddin al-Abhari divides essential definitions into two subcategories. He says essential definitions, the Arabic word for an essential definition is a had, are composite expressions. Every definition is a composite expression. In a composite expression, you have, in the composite expression of the definition, you have the definiendum, which is the term that is being defined. And then you have the actual definition, which is the rest of the statement, an intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes. This expression, intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes, is a composite expression because it composes the basic concepts of beverage, intoxicating, and being squeezed from grapes together to create conceptual knowledge of a new concept, namely wine. So an essential definition is a composite expression that signifies the definiendum's essence. And there's two kinds of essential definitions. They are either complete. An essential definition is a complete essential definition when it captures all of the definiendum's essential properties. such as the definition that we just saw: wine is an intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes. This captures all of the definiendum's essential properties. Or it's an incomplete essential definition which captures some of the definiendum's essential properties. Both of them are essential, but one captures all of them, the other one captures some of them. An example of an incomplete essential definition is to say that wine is an intoxicating substance. We removed beverage and we put in substance that is squeezed from grapes. This definition allows us to comply. It enables us to comply with the divine command. We can, with this definition, we know that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden us to drink in the Quranic verse. However, it doesn't tell us completely what it is, because it doesn't tell us that wine is a beverage, that it's a liquid that is drunk. But it tells us some other things. It tells us that it's intoxicating and that it's squeezed from grapes. So it gives us some of the definiendum's essential properties. Let's look at each one of these in turn, beginning with a complete essential definition. So he says a complete essential definition, in Arabic this is had tam, are composed of the definiendum's proximate genus and specific difference. So the classic example of a complete essential definition is to say that humans are rational animals. The definition here is rational animal. The definiendum human is not technically part of the definition. So this definition is composed of the genus, which is animal, and the specific difference, which is rational. Now, the genus is the proximate genus. What's the proximate genus? The proximate genus is the genus that is closest to the species that is being defined. So here, the genus is animals, and it's just above the definiendum, namely humans. The concept, universal concept, physical object, which is above animals, is also a genus of humans. Humans are a kind of physical object, but it's the genus physical object is a remote genus. It's not a proximate genus. In order for to constitute a complete essential definition, you need the proximate genus, the genus that is just above the definiendum, animals, and you need the specific difference. The specific difference here is rational. The specific difference, remember, is that which differentiates the species of human from other species of the genus, animals, in other words. So the specific difference that differentiates humans from other kinds of animals is rational. And so this is a complete essential definition. Humans are rational animals. It captures all of the definiendum's essential characteristics. To take a more religious example, here is a definition that enables us to comply with the divine prohibition of consuming wine. Wine is an intoxicating beverage that is squeezed from grapes. So we can make a similar category tree. And the intoxicating beverage, you can say intoxicating liquid here, intoxicating liquid. Together, this is so you have liquids could be intoxicating or non-intoxicating. So an intoxicating liquid is the proximate genus, and the fact you can have an intoxicating liquid that is squeezed from grapes, or it could be made from grain, or it could be made from other substances, and the universal that differentiates the species of wine from other species of intoxicating liquids is that wine is the one that is squeezed from grapes. What about incomplete essential definitions? So an incomplete essential definition, remember, captures some of the definiendum's distinguishing essential characteristics. Not distinguishing essential characteristics, but not all of them. And the classic example is to say that humans are rational physical objects. So a complete definition is humans are rational animals. It captures all of the essential characteristics of human beings. They're animals that are rational. But in this definition, the animalness of human beings is left out. And so it only captures some of the definiendum's essential characteristics. And that's why it's called incomplete, because there are some essential characteristics that are missing. So an incomplete essential definition, al-had al-naqis in Arabic, he says, are composed of the definiendum's remote genus and the proximate specific difference, such as the concept rational physical object with respect to the concept human. So the definiendum is human, the and the concept physical object is its remote genus. It's not the proximate genus. It's a genus because humans are a kind of physical object, but it's a remote genus because it is higher than animals. So this is a remote genus, and by composing the definition with a remote genus instead of the proximate genus, you leave out some of the essential characteristics of human beings. But it's still good enough. It tells you, it enables you to comply with the divine command. It's a physical object that is rational. The only kind of physical object that is rational is a human being. No other physical object is rational. So it's composed of the remote genus and the proximate specific difference. We can take an example that's more religious, a definition of wine that enables us to comply with the divine prohibition of consuming wine, and to say that wine is an intoxicating substance that is squeezed from grapes. So by substance is either liquid or solid, and so here in this definition you're not saying whether it's liquid or solid, and so the fact that it's liquid is left out, but the only intoxicating substance that is squeezed from grapes is wine, and so it is a definition, and it does give you conceptual knowledge of what wine is, but the conceptual knowledge is weaker than the conceptual knowledge of a complete essential definition. So to summarize, there are two kinds of essential definition, and a complete essential definition that mentions all of the definiendum's essential properties, and an incomplete definition that mentions some of the definiendum's essential properties. Let's go on to learn about non-essential definitions. Non-essential definitions, like essential definitions, are also either complete or incomplete. Non-essential definitions are composite expressions. So every definition is a composite expression because it's through the composition of basic concepts that you arrive at knowledge of inferential, that you arrive at inferential conceptual knowledge. So non-essential definitions are composite expressions that distinguish the definiendum from all other concepts. They are either complete or incomplete. So what a non-essential definition does, whether complete or incomplete, is it distinguishes the definiendum, but it doesn't capture the essence of the definiendum, neither completely nor partially. Let's begin with complete non-essential definitions. So Athiruddin al-Abhari, he says that a complete non-essential definition, ar-rasmu tam, so the Arabic word for a non-essential definition is ar-rasm. Rasm means an effect or a trace. So the idea here is that with a had, an essential definition, you capture what the definiendum is. But with a non-essential definition, a rasm, you describe some of its effects, some of its traces. And from the traces and effects of the essence, you gain enough knowledge to be able to distinguish the definiendum from other things, even if you don't know what the essence is. So a complete non-essential definition, he says, complete non-essential definitions are composed of the definiendum's proximate genus and inseparable exclusive universals, such as the concept an animal that laughs with respect to the concept human. So the definition humans are animals that laugh is a complete non-essential definition. It's complete because it has the proximate genus. So it describes human beings as being a kind of animal. But it doesn't distinguish human beings from the other species of animal with human beings specific difference. It doesn't say humans are rational animals, but rather it uses a property that is exclusive to human beings, namely laughter, which is an effect, a trace, a sign of the of rationality. And so by saying that humans are animals that are capable of laughter, uh, we are able to distinguish the concept human from other concepts. But it doesn't capture the essence of human, because it mentions that humans are animals, but there's many kinds of animals, and it distinguishes them by saying that they are capable of laughter, and laughter is not essential to human beings. And so this is a complete non-essential definition. So there is a word that I glossed over, which is inseparable. We saw that exclusive universals are either separable or inseparable. You'll find this in the lesson on the five universals. Your task is to figure out why, for a definition, a complete non-essential definition, why the exclusive universal needs to be inseparable. Why can it not be separable? So think about that, and there'll be an exercise for you to complete to answer that question. The second kind of non-essential definition, this is the last of the four kinds of definition, is an incomplete non-essential definition, الرسم الناقص. And he says that incomplete non-essential definitions are composed of multiple non-essential universals which in their entirety are inseparable from the definiendum's essence. Like what? Like the definition that you see here. You say human beings are things that walk on 2 feet, have broad nails. In other words, their nails aren't talons like the talons of birds, nor are they claws like the claws of lions. So human beings are things that walk on 2 feet, have broad nails, don't have any fur, they stand upright, and they're capable of laughter. All of these things put together give you a kind of conceptual knowledge of human beings. It allows you to distinguish human beings from other things, but it doesn't capture what human beings are, which is why it's non-essential. And it doesn't comprise the genus, the proximate genus of human beings. It doesn't say that human beings are animals. And that's why they're incomplete non-essential definitions. So if we read what Athiruddin al-Abhari said, he said that incomplete non-essential definitions are composed of multiple non-essential universals, which in their entirety are inseparable from the definiendum's essence. So in entirety, being a thing that walks on 2 feet, has broad nails, doesn't have any fur, stands upright, and is capable of laughter, in its entirety, all of these concepts, when composed, are inseparable from the essence of what a human being is, but they aren't the human being's essence. But because they're inseparable from the essence, they're the effects of the essence, they're consequences of the essence, or they're not effects or consequences, just happen to be always connected to it. When you see this, when you have conceptual knowledge of these things, then you are able to distinguish the concept of human from other concepts. So there are 4 kinds of definitions: complete and incomplete essential definitions, and complete and incomplete non-essential definitions. All of these kinds of definitions are correct methods of inferring new conceptual knowledge, but the strength and the quality of the conceptual knowledge is strongest in a complete essential definition, then in an incomplete essential definition, then in a complete non-essential definition, and then in an incomplete non-essential definition. So the best definition is the one that is closest to being a complete essential definition. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والله سبحانه وتعالى أعلم وهو حسبنا ونعم الوكيل.